One Direction member found dead in Buenos Aires. Went to check his astrocartography. So Liam Payne, member of One Direction, was found dead today in Buenos Aires, after having traveled there to see Niall's concert, another member. He posted about having things to discuss. He was there to sort traumatic things out. He ended up embarrassing himself on the concert, and started to get backlash online the last few weeks. Went to look for his astrocartography, and kid you not, he had a straight IC moon line right above Buenos Aires. Lower midheaven Imum Coeli, IC. The IC is the point opposite midheaven, and corresponds to the deepest and most hidden part of the horoscope. Along its allocated energy lines, we begin an internal journey of private thoughts and feelings. We look at such places for expressions of security, a sense of home and belonging. Deep emotions and intense moods become important. We become more fanciful, sensitive, and develop an unerring level of intuition. With the aid of such depth of emotion, conclusions are drawn far removed from simple rational thinking. IC lines are ideal for escaping the hectic pressure of everyday life and gaining new strength. We discover a source of being, realize the benefits of self-reflection, and come clean with ourselves. Traditional values gain in meaning, and we look back at the past. Greater importance is attached to matters dealing with childhood, the parental home, and family. Certain planetary energies along IC lines can work to release deep-seated, traumatic blocks. This has mainly to do with early childhood conditioning. In combination with such IC-related line energy, these negative patterns can be more fully released. Now tell me this isn't bizarre.
I did his chart as well. The moon line at IC was not a real factor, as it's considered relatively safe. This was very much about the full moon in Aries in his 6th, health/work, where he suffered 4 eclipses in Aries/Libra in his 6th/12th for the last year. Venus at 29 Scorpio was pushing his addictions to the edge, literally. He had pictures of himself playing on the edge of a 13-story building back from Zayn Malik's 21st birthday party. This was an ideation he had formed earlier. Venus just passed his Pluto in Scorpio in the 12th. A lot of major factors. It's tragic. I pray for his spirit to find peace. And if any troubled souls might find help in these words, and get some help, then our comments may be seen in the light of service, not disrespect. Peace.
Disagree based on classical astrology and modern astrologists who use astrology to solve real crimes. Classical astrology: the first house is the house of life and health, the 4th marks the end of life, the 6th house rules illness, and the 8th house is the house of death. The 7th rules the doctor, and the 10th is the house of all medical treatment including surgery. The MC/IC axis is the angle most often activated when someone dies. The 4th or IC is the end of life, and the 10th or MC is the house of medical treatment. Since the moon in classical astrology always co-ruled the ascendant or first house of health, the progressed moon conjunct the MC or IC is often involved in triggering death. Now, this may not be on the IC axis, but you can't say there is no connection on the IC line and moon.
Me on my Pluto IC who grew up on Mars IC feels like it can get super intense if you aren't using the energy wisely. For Pluto lines, that means really digging deep into trauma, learning how to navigate power struggles with everyone, and being okay with random really odd occurrences. For Mars, it means channeling that energy into physical activity and goals while somehow keeping the pace at home. Not for everyone. Hopefully I live to tell the tale someday.
If we consider that his time of birth is correct, then we can see that his Mars and Jupiter lines, conjunction in Libra 12th house, cross directly through Buenos Aires on his map. The moon line is located further east, and it's not a trigger for such an accident. Even his Uranus, Neptune, and Venus lines are closer. Among other things, the 12th house represent our death and other continents, etc. Also, Cancer Mars is currently transiting his 9th house, foreign countries plus violent planet combination. This tells you enough about his fate.
From my experience, going to your moon IC line can be a terrible idea. I am currently living at my birth location, which is roughly 50 kilometers, 31 mi, away from my moon IC line, and to be honest with you, it has been an unpleasant experience from a social perspective, while getting progressively worse while I was approaching adulthood. Astro.com and other sites will usually tell you that this is a line where you should feel at home and get in touch with nature and your surroundings. While this has largely been the case, my experience with human interactions has been the complete opposite of what is usually claimed. Astrodienst mentions the following, which is along the lines of what other services claim too. Traditional values become important, and you are more in touch with the land and its people. People appreciate you and make you feel that you belong. And boy, what a lie that was and still is. I have encountered so many toxic, superficial and false people, trying to actively block or sabotage me in different areas of life, ignore me, backstab me or simply throw me under the bus, that I would probably be a millionaire by now if I got a nickel for every negative encounter. There were some trustworthy and good-minded people here and there, but the overall sum has been a quite unpleasant experience. Furthermore, my current suspicions on the Moon IC line being the culprit for my bad experiences with others has been pretty much confirmed a year ago. Unbeknownst to me at the time, I didn't know anything about ACG yet. I switched universities and happened to land in a city, which was exactly on the Moon IC line. In retrospective, I now understand why that decision was a terrible idea and why my hopes of encountering a more welcoming environment over there were nearly instantly shattered. A Moon IC line is no guarantee whatsoever to have positive experiences with other people, just like a Jupiter line doesn't mean your life will become a walk in the park. Additionally, I also heard from others on this sub that living on or going to a Moon IC line can be a horrible decision. TLDR. If you blindly trust general descriptions of Moon IC lines bringing you great social interactions, you might be in for a rude awakening.
This is the realest take. For me, at least. Had the worst experiences with people in general, on my Moon MC line. And this is supposed to feel like home, a joke. Never felt really loved, welcomed or completely safe here, where I was born. Once I moved away it was when I truly felt all of those things, plus free. Blissful, happy, etc. Decided to move back to my home county after a catastrophic storm almost took out most of my family and TBH, it's very triggering and depressing. Some profound experiences with growth though, I must say. ESP with the relationship with my mom, Moon line, go figure, right? LOL. I've learned to cope easier by staying out the way, being pretty solitary and simply enjoying nature / my surroundings and the few people I do trust and FW. Ones who feel the same about me. So thanks so much for this BC. I thought I was losing my mind. I kept seeing the rainbow and butterflies description of this line every time I googled it. This makes more sense for me.
I understand the IC in a way that it is the lowest part on your chart, the end, the underworld. As a way to remember. Death in Astrology by Ron Bippus. Classical Astrology. The first house is the house of life and health. The fourth marks the end of life. The sixth house rules illness, and the eighth house is the house of death. The seventh rules the doctor, and the 10th is the house of all medical treatment, including surgery. People die under a progressed or directed aspect to an angle, especially the MC/IC axis. Any planet, even benefics like Jupiter or minor planets such as progressed Venus or Mercury can act as the trigger for death if it rules one of the houses involved in the end of life or aspects the ruler of one of these houses. Prefer transits, solar arc directions, and secondary progressions. Usually 2 of these 3 ingredients in the recipe for death are in place before something serious and major happens. More often than not, there is activity on all dynamic fronts, transits, progressions, and directions. These aspects don't always have to be hard aspects. In some cases, the easy aspects serve just as well. The MC/IC axis is the angle most often activated when someone dies. The 4th or IC is the end of life, and the 10th or MC is the house of medical treatment. Since the moon in classical astrology always co-ruled the ascendant or first house of health, the progressed moon conjunct the MC or IC is often involved in triggering death.